So this completes the reading transmission. And so first of all, I would like to say Dashitele to all you Dharma friends. And I feel that we are very fortunate to, practice the Dharma on such a auspicious, special time and date. And so it's a very fortunate time. So I'm extremely happy to meet together with you today. And I'm going to explain to you the sadhana to the best of my abilities, best as I can. But also we don't have so much time, so I will just explain it briefly. So before we engage in practice, if you're at home, if you have like a shrine room, a shrine space, then before you do the practice, you should set up some offerings and then the various items and the light, incense, whatever you have. An image of the deity, like a statue or a picture of the deity. So now we'll be practicing Chenrezig. So you can set up an image of Chenrezig and then light some incense and make some offerings and have it all neat and clean before you do the practice. And also before you practice, get everything ready. Your sadhana, your mala, your prayer wheel, have everything ready, prepared. And then just you should sit on the ground, really relaxed. So everything, all activities should be completed before you engage in the practice, before you start your session. And then once you start your session, until the end of your session, your mind should be focused on the session. And so if you haven't completed all your activities and so many things that you didn't do yet, then your mind can't really stay focused and you're thinking about all these things that you should do. So first you do everything that should be done, and then you just stay there in practice and don't do anything else. Don't do any activity during the session. Then you just focus your mind on the sadhana. So now our venue, our retreat place is really like the live stream. So because it's the venue is the live stream, then maybe no special feeling maybe arises in you. So you should not see it like that, but really think that this place, this a virtual venue, is really the actual temple, is the real retreat place. And everything is present, the deity and the lama and all the Dharma friends, the yidam, everything is there. Because if you think, oh, this is just a live stream, then your motivation is not complete. So everything really depends, all phenomena, I said, everything depends on our perception, how we see things. Therefore, you should first visualize, imagine this place. This is really the temple, and there really is the deity. And then you engage in the practice with faith and the pure perception. So therefore, don't just see it as some like not real, like just like a virtual venue, but see it as the real temple. And then your body is the deity, and your speech is the mantra, and your mind is a state of samadhi. And so then when you see it that way, and then you will engage in practice with great joy and delight. So you should try to think of it in this way. So we have the same text here. Anyways, yeah, I think you have a different text here. But anyways, so before we start with the sadhana, we always start a practice with refuge and bodhicitta. No matter what Buddhist practice you engage in, always begins definitely with refuge and bodhicitta. And so today, also in the practice of Chenrezig, it begins with first taking refuge and then cultivating bodhicitta. These lines here. So the first two lines are the refuge, and so it begins with Namo, and that means prostration, pay homage, and then so to the Lama, who is the embodiment of the three supreme ones, and the three supreme ones are the three jewels. And so the Lama embodies the three jewels and also the yidams and the Dharma protectors. So so think that all of these are included within Chenrezig, the Lama and the three jewels. Everything is included within Chenrezig. Or you can also think about each of these three jewels. That's also fine. So we take refuge, and in terms of the timing, how long do we take refuge? We take refuge until attaining the state of enlightenment, and not just for ourselves, for our own sake, but thinking that all sentient beings take refuge in the three jewels. Or today, since we practice Chenrezig, we take refuge in Chenrezig, who embodies all of the three jewels. And then the next two lines, the mind generation of bodhicitta. So we're saying that in order to liberate all beings from the ocean, to liberate all beings from samsara's ocean of suffering, I will make effort in the generation stage, completion stage, and mantra recitation of supreme Arya. And then it says, purify everything into emptiness with the mantra Om Svabhava Shuddha Sarvadharma Svabhava Shuddho Hang. And so here we purify into emptiness all phenomena, all concepts of like a dualistic subject-object existence. And so there's this grasping that we all have. So we think that there is this me that perceives, and there's others and so on. So there's fixation in our mind, grasping. We think me. And so that all becomes purified into emptiness. And purifying into emptiness, it doesn't mean that we are making something be empty that is not already empty. It's already empty in the first place to begin with. So we should here recognize the empty nature of everything. So this mantra shows the natural emptiness of everything. So then also sometimes we say that it's either everything becomes empty, emptiness is my true nature, or purity is my true nature. So then it begins with, from the state of emptiness, my own consciousness appears as a white ray. So after we have purified all phenomena into emptiness, then one's own awareness becomes a white Shri syllable. And then the Shri transforms into Chenrezig. So we are not visualizing our form as Chenrezig directly, immediately, but first we purify the body into emptiness. We understand emptiness, and then this emptiness becomes the white Shri syllable, and then that transforms into oneself as white Chenrezig, with one face, 4 arms, and 2 legs in the Vajra posture, sitting on a lotus seat, lotus and moon, and being adorned with the 13 ornaments of his Sambhogakaya. So basically, you can visualize Chenrezig just as he is depicted on a tanka. So then you have visualized Chenrezig's form and the implements and so on clearly. And then next you visualize that, so then there's the syllables. At the 3 places, there are white Om, red A, and blue Hong. And then from these, immeasurable light rays radiate out. And I think that it invites the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, who appear all in the form of Chenrezig, the way you visualize yourself. So think that they all become invited and then descend to the space in front of you. And then you also think that the empowerment deities, the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, are also invited to the space before you. Yeah, so you perform this mudra together with the recitation of this mantra, and also after that, instruments are being played. Then next is the praise. So you're offering praise to those who are worthy of praise. And so who is worthy of praise? And those worthy of praise is Noble Chenrezig and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And so to them being worthy of praise, I bow down with as many bodies as there are dust particles in the universe, and I praise them. So then it says Dahung Bam Hom, then the Samaya deity and the wisdom deity melt together indivisibly. So the wisdom deity, wisdom beings are those deities that you have invited. And the Samaya being is yourself, visualized as the deity. And so then all these wisdom beings then dissolve indivisibly with yourself, the Samaya being. So then so after having dissolved, so then the empowerment deities that have been invited to the space in front of you are holding in their hands white vases. So the empowerment deities bestow the empowerment. The water from the vase fills my body, and the accumulated defilements are purified. So the vase is filled with the nectar, the water of bodhicitta. And with this blessed water, the empowerment is conferred, and your body is filled by pouring the nectar into your crown. And in this way, all the defilements become purified. All your defilements of body, speech, and mind become completely cleansed, and through the power of the vase nectar. And so then the vase nectar fills up your entire body, and then reaches your crown, where it overflows. And this overflow of nectar at your crown forms a crown ornament of the Lord of the family, which in this case is Buddha Amitabha. You can always see on an image of Chenrezig that on top of Chenrezig, above his crown, there is the Buddha Amitabha. So Amitabha is the Lord of Chenrezig's family. So then after that, the empowerment deities also melt into me. Then there's the offering mantra, Bensa Argam, Padme, and so forth. And so this is the mantra for making offerings of form, sound, smell, touch, taste. And so Argam is the water offering to drink, and Padyam to water to rinse the feet, and Bube, Bishbam is the flowers, and Dubam is the incense, and Aloke is the light, and Gende is the perfumed water, and Nevidya is the food offering, and Shabda is the musical offering. And so then the offerings that you make, don't think of them as being one or two offerings, but think that you're offering many offerings. So in terms of the actual substances that you set up, it is fine to set up whatever you can afford. But even if you don't have much to set up, you can actually mentally generate these offerings. So you can, in your mind, think that there are many flowers, and there are so many offerings, and there's so much scented water, and so on. So there's a pleasant form, and many beautiful sounds, and many soft touches, and pleasant odors or smells, and so on. So you can bring it all up in your mind and think that I'm offering all of that to the three jewels and to Chenrezig. So if you have a lot of offering substances, you can put them all up. And then on top of that, you can still visualize many more mentally created offerings. And so then also it says all the things that are owned and unowned. So even you can bring to mind things that are owned by others, anything that you own, anything that others own, or anything where you don't know who the owner is. For example, when you see a beautiful house or a beautiful car, whatever object, whatever thing you see that is beautiful and pleasing, you can bring that to mind and make that an offering too. Then it says your white body is unstained by faults. So what is the meaning of the whiteness of his body? It is a sign that he's unstained by the stains of the afflictive emotions. And then a perfect Buddha adorns your head. You gaze upon beings with compassionate eyes. So this line is very important. You gaze upon beings with compassionate eyes. So that is the eyes of his great love, the love that comes from his heart for all sentient beings. And he sees them, he gazes upon them, he sees them all the time, uninterruptedly. just like a flowing river. A river flows always, it constantly flows. The river doesn't say, I'm going to flow for an hour and then take a break. The river always flows constantly, uninterruptedly. And so just like that, Chenrezig looks upon us all the time, uninterruptedly. Every hour, every minute, every second, all the time, he's looking upon us. And so what does it mean to look upon us? He's looking upon us. Looking is is his mind that feels, I want to liberate all sentient beings from suffering. And so that is his ongoing state. And therefore, if we supplicate Chenrezig with faith and with a pure perception, Chenrezig knows it all. He knows our supplication. He sees everything. He knows everything, and he will always protect us. So maybe you wonder that now I'm making these offerings to Chenrezig. I wonder if he really sees that. I wonder if he really knows that I'm doing that. Or if today I'm supplicating Chenrezig, does he really know I'm doing that? There's no need to have any doubts about that. Always he knows. He always knows our supplications. He always looks upon us at all times. And then if we cultivate faith and a pure perception, then his blessings can really enter our mind. And so now, today we are practicing Chenrezig, and Chenrezig at all times looks upon us. Of course, when we are practicing, he looks upon us. But even when we are not practicing, he still looks upon us with great compassion. And so if, no matter what we do, basically, Chenrezig always looks upon us with compassion. But only if we give rise to faith. Only then do we open the doors to be able to receive his blessings. So the blessings are always there, and he's always looking upon us, but we need to open the door so we can receive those blessings. For example, now if you have a positive aspiration, if you want to do something good, Chenrezig knows that, he sees that. But likewise, if you want to do something bad, if you're making a mistake, Chenrezig knows that too. For example, sometimes we are a little rude to others, or we hurt others with body, speech, and mind. Chenrezig knows all of that, everything we do. And not only that, he even knows our mind. So even if you have a negative thought and a negative intention, Chenrezig knows it. Even if you're in your home, all locked in, nobody knows what you're doing in your home. But if you're doing something evil, something bad in your home, even though nobody else would know, Chenrezig knows what you're doing in your home. Or for example, if you're being very nice to somebody, saying something nice, but in your mind, you really have a lot of negative thoughts about them, they might not know about it, but Chenrezig knows. So whether it is good, if it's good, he knows, and if it's bad, he knows everything. And so if we want to receive his blessings, then we have to purify our karmic obscurations. And we do that by cultivating faith and a pure perception. If you have an evil intention and still want to have Chenrezig's blessings, then even though Chenrezig will have an even greater, will have even stronger compassion for you because of your evil intention, but because of your evil intention, your pure view and faith will not be authentic. Even though you want his blessings, but your intention is evil, then the blessings cannot enter your mind. And so even though his compassion, his blessings are there, if you have an evil intention, it's like you're closing the door. When the door is closed, then nothing can enter, no blessings can enter, even if he wants to give you blessings. So then in my heart centers moon disk, on which is a white tree. So you visualize yourself as Chenrezig, and then at your heart, on top of a moon disk, is a white tree syllable surrounded by the 6-syllable mantra, omani, padme, hung. And then from this white light, immeasurable light streams out. So it circles clockwise, and then immeasurable light streams out, and the light then pervades and touches all sentient beings in the 6 realms of samsara, the gods and the demigods, humans, animals, hungry spirits, the hell beings. All beings are touched by Chenrezig light. And think about all of the individual sufferings of each of those beings in the different realms, and think that being touched by his light, all of their suffering, all of their obscurations, everything becomes completely purified. It's just like when the sun touches the morning frost, instantly it melts away. So, for example, we have some ice, some frost, and hot sun is shining on it. Then in an instant, in a moment, it melts immediately. So just like that, being touched by the light of Chenrezig, the suffering of all beings in the 6 realms becomes purified. All suffering in an instant is removed, and all beings become Chenrezig. So they all transform into the noble Chenrezig. And so here it says appearing vividly while chanting the mantra. So this appearing vividly also has a connotation of the transformation of beings into Chenrezig, like from a state of suffering into Chenrezig. So for example, if you can imagine, sometimes there's these videos or video clips we see on the screen where like colors, like a screensaver, so the colors change from one color to the other color. Like you have red and slowly it fades into green and white and so on. So just like that. So there's this like transformation of all sentient beings suffering into the form of the noble one of Chenrezig. So they slowly transform into this form of Chenrezig. And so then also having transformed, we think that then all sound of lament, of the great suffering experienced by the hell beings and the hungry spirits, their suffering cries, all sound transforms into the 6-syllable mantra omani padme hum. And so in this way, all forms become the deity, and all the speech becomes mantra, and their speech becomes mantra, and their mind becomes a state of samadhi. So it is said that everything heard is mantra, and everything seen appearances is the deity. Everything. You reflect in this way while you are reciting the Mani mantra. So first you visualize how the mantra garland circles, and then how light radiates out, and then how this light touches all sentient beings in the 6 realms, and then being touched by the light, how this light then purifies all of their suffering. So then again, light. So after the light has streamed out and purified the suffering of all the sentient beings in the 6 realms, then again, light streams out and makes offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions. And then the light then gathers their compassionate blessings in the form of 5-colored light and nectar. So then these blessings in the form of light are then drawn back to you. And then think that the light then dissolves, it touches you and then dissolves into you. And in this way, the blessings of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas have merged with you. And so when you recite the mantra, so at times you can just stay in an undistracted state and just recite the mantra, Mani Padme Hum. And then sometimes you visualize the form as we just have described. So where you visualize yourself as Chenrezig, and then all those stages of visualization we just went through, and then you visualize that as you recite the Mani mantra. And then sometimes you just recite without visualizing anything. You're just staying in a state of non-distraction, focused on the sound of the mantra. And sometimes you can also just develop a very strong faith, a devotion to Chenrezig, and recite the mantra. And sometimes you can cultivate great compassion for sentient beings and recite the mantra. And then again, you come back to and not visualizing anything at all and just staying in the state of non-distraction while reciting the mantra. So in the previous page, in the small print, so then it says you should recite the Mani mantra free from the 6 faults. So be free from the 6 faults while reciting this. And so Rinpoche said, I'm going to explain those 6 faults. Is the first fault of those 6 is that you shouldn't recite the mantra too fast, too quickly. Then secondly, you also shouldn't recite it too slowly. And then thirdly, you shouldn't announce it too harshly, like too loud and too harsh. But also you shouldn't pronounce say the mantra like without any force, too quietly. And also you shouldn't recite the mantra with kind of a mental lack of clarity, and also not with a mental state of agitation. So you should recite the mantra free from those 6 faults. And so now to go into them in more detail, the first one, to recite the mantra quickly. When you recite the mantra too quickly, even you recite like omani padme, then it's so quick you're swallowing the words, and once you say you're already at the home. So you're slurring and you're mixing them all together, and they're kind of blending together. So they shouldn't be recited too quickly, these syllables, but also shouldn't be recited too slowly. And so there are certain times when we recite Sanskrit syllable where some syllables need to be recited quicker and some need to be recited slower, but that should not be mixed up. So it should be the right pace. And if it's too slow, then you kind of get like bored and kind of annoyed by that. So don't recite it too slow, just basically in good moderation, not too fast, not too slow, not too loud, not too quiet. So it's basically, it's the same as when you're talking to somebody. When you're talking to somebody and you're talking so fast, nobody can follow you, nobody understands what you're trying to say. But if you're talking really slow, then people very likely get a little annoyed by that. They have to keep listening to you. So it's just like that when you recite the mantra. And then the third one is to not recite it too like forceful, and like when you're really like you're raising your voice and it sounds really like harsh. Instead, the mantra should be recited gently. It's again the same like talking to somebody. When you talk to somebody, like really forcefully and like with a real temper, really angry, then nobody wants to listen to that. So if you're just yelling at people, no one wants to listen. But also at the same time, you don't want to be too quiet so that nobody can hear anything what you say if it's too quiet. So for example, when normally you have an umse, right, a chant master. So when the chant master leads the group too quietly, then nobody can really hear. Everybody will be confused and not know where they're at. So it should be recited so that it can be heard clearly, but also gently at the same time. Basically, it's exactly the way you would want to talk to somebody. So not too fast and not too slow and not too fierce and forceful and not too quiet. Just in a perfect kind of proportion, perfect moderation. So basically the way you talk to someone, this is also how you recite the mantra. So then next is the fault of the fifth one of mental sinking or lack of clarity. So that is when your mind becomes kind of dull. You go into this dull state. Your mind is not clear. It's like you're not really asleep, but it's almost like being asleep. There's this really dull, blank state. So that is also a fault. So when the mantra is recited within such a state of mind, it does not become a pure, authentic mantra recitation. And then the other side to that is the sixth fault, which is agitation and distraction. So if you have so many thoughts and you think about so many things, the mind can never really stay still. And even if you recite the mantra with such a state of mind, then again, the mantra recitation will become impure because the mind is distracted outward. When the mind is distracted outward, then the inner samadhi, the concentration, is unclear. And that's also a fault. So you should recite the mantra while being collected inside, without being distracted, without being losing your clarity, and also without being distracted. So then you recite the omani mantra, and at the end, then at the end of that session, we come to the dissolution, which is called the dissolution stage, and then we come to the post-meditative state. And so once the session is completed, you're about to stop the session. So then you visualize. So first you have this whole visualization that you have generated of this whole field of deities, yourself as Chenrezig, and then the entire universe and beings and so on. So think that all of this, the entire universe and all beings, all your surroundings dissolve into you, and then you yourself dissolve into light, and then that light dissolves into the Shri, which is at the heart level. And then the Shri itself slowly dissolves into an empty state, a non-referential state. This is called the completion stage. So first, in the beginning, you have visualized the deity. This is the generation stage. And then in the end, when everything dissolves, that is the completion stage. And after everything has dissolved, then you meditate in a state, resting in the natural state of the mind that is completely empty and without any reference point. So in brief, before we have generated many different kinds of visualizations, and all of that becomes empty in the end. Because also that again shows that nothing at all possesses any true inherent existence. So it begins like that, it ends with that. In the beginning, we start with purifying all into emptiness, and from that arises the visualization. And then now in the end, it all gathers back into this state of emptiness, which is the natural state of the mind that is without the dualistic perception, that the reality of subject and object. So that's the view of emptiness. So in the completion, you rest within such a view of emptiness, a state of emptiness. And so, during the completion stage, you are in a natural state of the mind. And so normally we speak about the ultimate truth or the state of Mahamudra. We speak about the relative and the ultimate. And so first, the deity arises. We visualize the deity, we make offerings, and then there's all the different levels, stages of visualization. So all of that belongs to the relative. And then the dissolution belongs to the ultimate. In the dissolution in the ultimate, we're really speaking about the true nature of all, the true reality. So everything dissolves into the true reality. So when it dissolves into the ultimate, the true reality, which is the natural state of the mind, here then you recognize the nature of your mind as it is. And so we call this emptiness. And we can also call this the ultimate Chenrezig. So the ultimate Chenrezig really is emptiness that has compassion at its core. Or we can say it's the deity, which is the embodiment of love and compassion. That is the ultimate nature of Chenrezig. And then the relative form of Chenrezig with the 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes and so on, or with the 4 arms and so on. There are so many different appearances. But all of these appearances really is a manifestation of emptiness and compassion, which is the natural state of mind, emptiness and compassion. So in the completion stage, then all dissolves into this non-referential empty state. And you try to rest within that state of emptiness and compassion. And so that state is the ultimate Chenrezig, or the ultimate state of Mahamudra. And all the deities are complete within this state. So then in the completion stage, you rest within the natural state of the mind. And then again, you rise to engage in your daily activities. So you rest in the state for as long as you can, and when a thought appears, think that you again become Arya Avalokiteshvara. So again, thoughts arise because we are beginning practitioners. We are not able to always sustain such a state. Thoughts arise again. And so then when you go about your daily life with those thoughts, you should sustain an awareness of I am Chenrezig in all your activities. So because the activities is the time when we have a lot of thoughts. And so therefore, in whatever you do, if you always sustain this awareness, I am Chenrezig, and you always recite the Mani mantra, then because Chenrezig is an embodiment of love and compassion, that is his nature, then just naturally whatever you do in your activities becomes also an activity of love and compassion. So to really sustain awareness of I am Chenrezig is really an essential point. Because when you think that I'm Tashi, I'm Dorje, and so on, then again, this me, this I arises. And Rinpoche always tells us that all faults, all afflictive emotions come from that, from this me. And so whatever you do, whether you recite the Mani mantra or whatever else you do, it's important to be mindful. And that means to be not distracted. When you recite the Mani mantra, you should be mindful. When you go about your activities, you should be mindful of love and compassion. And sustaining an awareness of I am Chenrezig. So if you have that, it's fine if you don't actually visualize yourself in all the detail, like the white color and all these arms and eyes and all of that. It's fine if you don't visualize that clearly. But you need to surely sustain love and compassion in your mind. If you do that, then you have become Chenrezig. You can really think I am Chenrezig, because you have love, and Chenrezig is an embodiment of love and compassion. That is the actual Chenrezig. And so therefore, you don't separate from love and compassion. And so sometimes it is, difficulties arise. It is quite difficult to sustain that. So sometimes we're not mindful, and then negative thoughts arise and negative emotions arise. So when that happens, then when you encounter some difficulty, and immediately just bring up your mindfulness again and remember I'm Chenrezig, and cultivate love over and over again. Keep remembering it. And if you keep doing that, you really are Chenrezig. So at the end of the practice, then it says, so all the virtue is dedicated. So may all the negativities and obscurations of beings become purified. So we bring to mind all of the virtue that we have accumulated. This day we have received empowerment and transmission in the morning, also instructions today. And we practiced Chenrezig. We recited the Mani mantra. We went through the different levels of visualizations and so forth. All the different things, virtuous things that you have done, you dedicated for the sake of all sentient beings, so that their negative karmas and their obscurations and negativities all become purified. And so nowadays we can actually really see so much suffering. When we just think about the COVID, for example, it's incredible suffering. We can directly see it. Of course, the hell beings and the hungry spirits suffer greatly, but we can see them. but we can still see a lot of suffering in this world. So at that time of dedication, you bring it all to mind and think that through this virtue accumulated today, may all of this become purified, all of this suffering, all of these evil karmas, these obscurations, may they all become purified. And then having purified all obscurations, may all beings become the noble Chenrezig, may they become indivisible from Chenrezig. So dedicate them in such a way that they will attain that state of Chenrezig. And so this completes the brief commentary on the sadhana.
Mani